Hey guys, Nick here, and today we will discuss what might happen with the Majin Buu arc, and if Buu will matter at all. Kinda weird how I started that off with the last video being the androids and now this one, but hey, if the saga sees the villains not mattering much, what the heck? Anyways, this is part 6 to What If Vegeta Raised Tarble. I hope you guys have been enjoying the series so far as we jump in to the Buu saga. Now, in regards to the Z fighters, that which being Goku, Piccolo, Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Gohan, they have all gained tremendous power throughout the time of the Android arc going in to the Buu arc. Now, some of which, Goku and Gohan, aren't as strong as their canon counterparts at this point in time, but that's due to a lot of things not happening and a lot of which being changed. As for the Saiyans, Vegeta, throughout all of this, is the strongest out of everybody, with Tarble, obviously his brother, not being too far behind, Raditz and Nappa being the next two, and then after that Goku, and so on. Now, jumping into the likes of the 25th World Tournament, I discussed a few things before ending the video last time. One of which, concerning the likes of Goten and Trunks. Now, Goten was born very early on, because Goku and Chi-Chi were around each other more. But I think that maybe, possibly, Goten and Trunks would honestly have been born around the same time, if not, maybe Trunks being born sooner, because Yamcha and Bulma were still in a strong relationship since Vegeta never showed up, and they would have a chance to actually, fix their relationship status from the original, Yamcha and Bulma meaning. And so Vegeta pretty much remains a loner besides Tarble and his fellow Saiyans. Now, whether or not Goten and Trunks would be too old to compete in the junior division is questionable, considering Saiyan physiology and how long it took Goten and Trunks to age, but I'm convinced that with how early Goten and Trunks were born, like the Saiyan arc kinda, that a Desa would win the junior division. But that's up to you guys. Either way, it wouldn't matter, because Goten would win because he's Saiyan, and Yamcha and Bulma, Trunks is an Earthling, and so on. Anyways, going into the adult division, we see Yamcha and Krillin fighting each other like some other stories, with Krillin ultimately becoming the victor. Now, the Piccolo and Supreme Kai fight I feel would go the same, even though Piccolo and Kami never fused. I still feel that Piccolo would know that the Supreme Kai isn't an ordinary being. So, a little bit different, yet not too much. Now, like some other stories, even though this Gohan is kinda in the same power as his canon counterpart, if not maybe higher, and he hasn't been slacking off, so that gives even more good for Gohan, and we all want that. That means that Videl would be stronger going into the tournament. Now, this particular Videl might have some difficulty against Spovich like before, but it wouldn't be the brutal massacre fight that we saw with her original counterpart, and I'm sure a lot of us do not, the vast majority of us, did not like Videl being beat up by Spovich that cruelly. Although I think it would be a struggle, I think Videl would win this match outright. Now, going on to the Gohan versus Kibito fight, the startup and everything I feel would play out the same way, because there really isn't nothing that I see would differ from the original story. That is until Gohan powers up. Now, this is where things start to differ, because even though this Gohan hasn't been slacking, this is the first time we're seeing him turn Super Saiyan 2, because he's the lowest in terms of all the other Saiyans. So, this is the real first time we get to see up close and personal the true extent of Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. The whole Great Saiyaman thing I don't think would play a factor here, but if it did, then that wouldn't really matter too much. But anyways, aside from that, after Gohan transforms, this is Yamu and Spopovich's chance to strike. The Supreme Kai does his thing by paralyzing Gohan, because this Gohan, like I said, even with Super Saiyan 2, would be around his Canon Cell Saga counterpart, so not too big a difference. Supreme Kai does his thing, like I said, paralyzing him and telling the others to stay back. But, unlike the canon people, the Z-Fighters, this isn't going to work as easily as you might think. Vegeta being the leader of all these people, being the strongest, and really not liking the idea of taking orders, Frieza, just steps up, shoots a finger beam straight at the container, which was draining Gohan's energy. Which means now all that energy has just been completely wasted. And with the power of Yardratian training, Vegeta uses the Force Spirit Fission to give all that energy back to Gohan. Wherever the energy was stolen from that point on remains to be seen. But that energy would return to where it was before. Likely the people we saw at Babidi's ship who were killed, that Gohan saw whenever they were hiding in the mountains. Now the Supreme Kai, witnessing this, is left perplexed, because even though they stopped Yamu and Spopovich from draining any energy, including Gohan's, they just lost any hope of finding Majin Buu and Babidi and all that stuff. So he questions this to Vegeta, and Vegeta, being the leader, explains himself, saying that he doesn't like taking orders from anybody, and that he is the sole protector, basically, of this planet. And that if he has anything to explain, he better do it right now, because he just pretty much sacrificed Gohan to these two ruffians. So he better have a good reason for why this was done, or he will not hesitate to just destroy him. Now, the Supreme Kai isn't immediately threatened by this, but Vegeta is right in a way, and feels that he deserves some explaining. So the Supreme Kai lets known about Babidi and basically goes on the whole story of Majin Buu a few minutes before their fly to the ship. Now, Spopovich and Yamu were allowed to escape, but their fate isn't too much better than their originals. You see, since the container holding all that energy was destroyed and Gohan was revitalized back with that energy, even though it wasn't too long that he was drained, and there was no energy at all, Spopovich and Yamu, the second that they get to the ship without a container or anything and no excuse, just dead. They're just killed right on the spot. Babidi just kills them himself. He doesn't even ask Pui Pui to kill Yamu. And Babidi is quite agitated at this. He knew that Spopovich and Yamu were mere humans and wouldn't do much, but he didn't expect them to get the container destroyed. And after he detects the Z-Fighters hiding in the mountains, Deborah, like before, goes up to confront them. Now, unlike before, there are much more fighters in the mountains. So there are definitely... Babidi has not lost hope, even though Yamu and Spopovich did not bring back energy. But when Deborah tries to kill Kibito, the Z-Fighters are much more smart about this. Piccolo uses his stretchy arm ability and pushes Kibito out of the way. So that way, his attack just basically... Deborah's attack just singes off Piccolo's arm. Piccolo regenerates, and when he tries to go for a stretchy arm to catch Deborah again, Deborah just spits on his arm that's coming towards him. But, like before, Piccolo just, and regenerates his arm. No harm done, except a little bit of exhaustion from having to regenerate himself twice in a row. Deborah, seeing this as kind of a threat, and much more fighters after him, sees that he cannot win this outright, and he failed to kill anybody, so this is definitely not the time. He uses the power of his telekinesis and throws rocks from the entire mountain at the group, bombarding all of them with rocks. So they're basically trapped within the mountain for the moment. So that way Deborah can get into the ship and actually use the meditation room like the cannon and actually stand a better chance against all of them. Now, Bobbity, seeing that Deborah at least did something rather than Yamu and Spopovich, is not angered by Deborah not really being able to kill anybody outright. But he says that he needs to make sure, Deborah, that if he uses the meditation room, he wins. Now on to the fights themselves. Vegeta fights Pui Pui like his cannon part, and it's even more one-sided than the original. Goku then goes on to fight Yakon, and I feel that this fight would be honestly the same, except Vegeta wouldn't have that urge to basically be surprised by Goku's power since he's been training with him all this time. He's the strongest one. So that's like the only difference. Now when we get to the Gohan versus Deborah fight, that is much more different because this Gohan is far more focused. So when he goes Super Saiyan 2 against Deborah, he's barely taking any or little damage. Nothing. Deborah's attacks, even his sword, spit, flames, you name it, it's all nothing. Just nothing. Because this Gohan's far more stronger, focused, determined, and Deborah has no answer to anything. He's left completely and utterly outmatched. And soon, Deborah has nothing more to offer. And Gohan finishes off the fight with his angry Kamehameha, or at least the Kamehameha we saw him use against Majin Buu's ball. You can say it was an angry Kamehameha, or like Gohan's, whatever the name is. And Bobbity, after this, is left completely shocked. He's gotten little to no energy, even with Deborah. He hasn't even got halfway full with Majin Buu's ball. And to add insult to injury, there's no one that he can attempt to control because all these guys are pretty much goody two-shoes. Yeah, sure, Vegeta is an arrogant leader and everything else, but his heart has no kind of malice close to his original counterpart, which was just destined on beating Goku and just jealous, basically. So Bobbity's left in a pickle. And the Supreme Kai's left thinking about something while all this is going on. He saw what Vegeta could do whenever he blasted the container holding Gohan's energy. The power that he used, which he called forced spirit fission, gathering all that energy and being able to do that, he thinks that maybe, just maybe, depending on which version of Majin Buu is in the ball, maybe there's actually a chance to do something great for the universe. Maybe actually bring back his old brethren? Now, how is this going to be done? Well, if you guys remember, the South Kai and the Grand Kai were concealed within Buu's body. So, the Supreme Kai is thinking, maybe, just maybe, the Force Spirit Fission might work to the factor of bringing them back. Sure, the Dragon Balls did exist, but the Supreme Kai knew that overusage of the Dragon Balls for such a purpose was a bit ludicrous. And he thinks about this more for the Force Spirit Fission, but he doesn't let anybody know yet. Once they get to Bobbity's center, the Supreme Kai wastes no time and immediately executes Bobbity. And with that, the Majin Buu arc is effectively over? Question mark? Not quite. Because the Supreme Kai then makes his case known about a plan he has for Majin Buu's ball. He originally states that he did want to take it away and have it dealt with, but this time he has a plan. Something different regarding Buu's ball. What is this truly to the group, even though I pretty much admitted what it is outright? What will happen if the plan goes right. And that's where we leave things for the moment. Hope that you guys enjoyed this little episode. I say little even though it's 15 minutes. Hope you guys are enjoying What If Vegeta raised Tarble as a whole. Like I say every video, you guys got any recommendations for me? Let me know in the community tab or the comment section. And with that, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.